Hello and welcome back. Hopefully you are all refreshed from your break. I managed to sneak in a quick pan of chocolat. My name is Nikki Shields and this is session 2 at the WorldDAB Summit 2021. Now I'm very excited because up next, joining me in the studio for this session is Veit Ennals, the CEO of Digital Radio UK. Veit, absolute pleasure. How are you?
Good morning, Nikki. It's great to be with you. What a beautiful day to see here in London.
I know.
Yeah, extraordinary.
We're treated to a rather beautiful backdrop, aren't we? Blue skies and everything. We ordered
Fantastic.
it especially for you.
Thank you.
Now, earlier today, we had a bit of an overview, of course, of the major DAB Plus markets. And now we're turning our attention to DAB Plus devices and, of course, the environment. Now, we are going to hear from a panel of digital radio experts who will tell us about the latest audio device trends and also how radio broadcasters are making the switch from analogue to digital, but while still remaining sustainable. Now, our first speaker, many of you may know, is Jacqueline Bierhorst, the Project Director of Digital Radio Netherlands, who also chairs the WorldDAB Marketing Group. So, Jackie, over to you.
Hello, and it looks really pretty in London. Wish I was there with you. Would have been great. Hello, everybody. Good morning, and it's nice to be with you. Within WorldDAB, we have the WorldDAB Marketing Group that comes together 3 times a year, approximately 30 delegates over 15 countries or more. And as Patrick just mentioned, one of the key priorities is to sell more DAB Plus radios, so more people can enjoy the advantages of digital radio listening. Today, I give you a few examples on how the Netherlands, Germany, and Belgium approach this. The WorldDAB Marketing Group aim is to make sure that DAB Plus marketing around the globe is a priority for all broadcasters and its partners, keeping broadcast and its unique ecosystem at the heart of radio. For effective and efficient use of resources, this group shares knowledge, inspires co-workers from other countries, and make it easier to navigate, borrow, and learn from great or less great marketing cases. Just so you know, the DAB Plus Style Guide is free to download on the worlddab.org website, and the DAB Plus Marketing Toolkit is available on Dropbox. There are many subjects we share and talk about in the marketing group, and one of them is the receiver mission. DAB Plus in all new consumer radios sold. Legislation for that is already or will be implemented in, amongst others, Italy, France, Germany, Belgium, and other countries will follow. And digital radio organizations in the different countries contribute to achieve this mission through collaboration with receiver manufacturers, retailers, and e-tailers. And the first example is from the Netherlands. The Netherlands have a 360-degree campaign to influence behavior and improve the actual use of DAB+. The campaign is heard and seen on radio, TV, through native ads, and Facebook links, out of home on the back of trucks, and online video. On top of that, we have a collaboration with the 5 biggest Dutch retailers. On the national commercial stations, we air tag-ons after the DAB Plus commercial to inform listeners about discounts on DAB Plus receivers. This tag-on is offered for free to retailers. Digital Radio Netherlands takes care of the tag-on production and costs. The retailers make agreements with manufacturers on discount percentages and take care of their own communication on their website and via newsletters to their customer base. Here in the text, an example of the media market tag-on. With DAB Plus, you hear more and pay less. Get your new DAB Plus radio from MediaMarkt now with a 15% discount on selected models. Participating manufacturers are, amongst others, Sony, Philips, Lenco, Imperial, Denon, Kenwood, Sanjeev, etc.
Met DAB Plus hoor je meer.
I didn't want to have the sound. So All these efforts result in a great uplift of sales. And this sales up is an action period compared to a normal period. So as you can see, it's 271% up in sales. Then it brings me to Germany. Digital Radio Germany is very active and a great inspiration for other countries. We could add an entire session on all activities on B2C and B2B marketing, but for today we focus on the DAB+ retail promotion and then a part of it. The team in Germany made sure that all retail staff gets guidance and new updates on DAB+ and its advantages. This makes sure that the shop seller is well informed and can give a good explanation on DAB+ to customers. There's a variety of point of sale materials offered by Digital Radio Germany, like flyers combined with elements as a decoration cube or shelf decoration. Press releases which cater to B2B markets, retail, and the industry are sent out regularly. And on top of that, B2B advertorials are placed in trade magazines to regularly update shop owners. More than 3,200 stores are visited yearly, and the employees are given point of sale training and make sure the branding looks good. So everything's arranged down there. It's really beautiful. And in February this year, DAB+.store was launched, a website that offers exclusive DAB+ radios in Germany, made possible to the fantastic collaboration within all involved in Digital Radio Germany with manufacturers and operator Teleoperator GmbH. And then over to Belgium. In September, the first joint national DAB+ radio campaign was aired. A 2-week radio campaign aired on the main French and Flemish-speaking FM stations. Started on September 13, in association with the retailer Van den Borrel. The same message in French and Dutch on the recycling of old FM receivers. This message hooks up to the communication on the green dimension of DAB+ of MaRadio. On the website of MaRadio, there's an information for consumers about the green dimension of DAB+. It explains DAB+ broadcasting is much greener. It uses less electricity, needs fewer antennas, and generates much less electromagnetic radiation than FM. It doesn't matter how many people listen to it, unlike internet streaming. And the TV message at the French-speaking part also explained the DAB+ broadcasting uses less electricity. That is a real plus for the planet. And in the joint commercial that was aired in September, the focus is on recycling of the old FM receivers. Nowadays, we can also listen digitally to radio. Are you not yet equipped? Good news. Up to the 30th of September, bring your old radio set to Van den Borrel, where it will be recycled or given a second life. Thank you for this nice gesture. You will receive a discount when you buy your new DAB radio set. Visit your local Van den Borrel store to listen to your favorite radio in DAB+. There are many more examples of great collaborations in the countries on screen and beyond. If you want to know more, you can join the World DAB Marketing Group or check the worlddab.org website or ask the World DAB Project Office for more information. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jackie, for that really informative presentation there with some top hints and tips for those of you who are working with retailers today. And, you know, you can see that there's lots of support available to broadcasters in helping retailers to really sell DAB+ to their customers. But retailers not only need clear strategies, they also need knowledgeable staff. And that kind of leads us on to our next discussion with Ford. But just a quick reminder, of course, do get your questions in for our speakers today, because we love to hear from you. And yeah, we want to put the questions to the team today. So as I said, we're now going to hear from Ford. Ford, you're going to tell us a bit about the work that you've been doing with retailers to train and educate their staff about DAB. Tell us more.
That's right, Nikki. Thanks so much for the invite to be here today. It's great to have this opportunity to talk about the UK and the work that we're doing with retailers in the UK. We're at a pivotal point in the UK at the moment. In as much as what we have, as I'll talk about, is strong digital listening. We have a booming audio market, record sales of audio devices, but what we see is digital radio sales are challenging. And we do think that the heart of that is retail and the retail sector and retail staff. So what we're looking to do is to better inform retailers, better inform their staff and better educate them. And that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about.
Which sounds absolutely wonderful, Ford. I'm sorry, we're just going to quickly get you re-mic'd because we want to be able to hear every important word that is about to come out of your mouth. Don't think you can get away with it. You're going on record now.
I'm so sorry.
Don't be silly.
Not to totally recap, but I am going to talk about retail, but I'm also going to talk a bit about digital listening and the stage of the market we're in at the moment in terms of booming audio sales, but challenging digital radio sales. So let's get into it. It's exciting. In the last week, we've just received Q3 2021 radio listening data. It's the first time for a year and a half that we've received any data. So this really gives us the first insight of what's happened during the pandemic and what's been the impact on radio and indeed what's been the impact on digital radio. So it's really intriguing to see this. And I guess the headlines from this is that actually overall radio is doing well. And we saw record levels of radio listening, up about 3%, mainly growing in-home, and we've seen at work and in-car flat, but you'd expect that given the changes that we've seen in terms of people working at home, spending more time at home. And I guess critically, we saw digital listening surge to almost 66%. 2/3 of all listening is now digital in the UK, which is a really healthy level of growth, and we're very excited about that. And if you actually look at DAB itself, DAB is now in the UK the predominant platform for listening. Actually, there's over 50% more hours listened to on DAB than FM and AM combined, which shows you how strong DAB is, and FM and AM together are about 34%, so significantly less. And the other major driver of digital listening growth in the UK, as you'd expect, is listening online, listening on smart speakers, which is now up to 18.1%. But, you know, if you look at listeners under 55, it's all over 20%. So we're absolutely convinced that listening online and to smart speakers is going to continue to be a source of key growth for the market. So as I say, overall, with digital listening very strong and radio listening very strong. But what we're seeing is this shift at retail. And the shift is driven, we think, by new technology, by voice technology, by smart speakers, and you know, they are selling incredibly well. And what we also wanted to assess, though, is what do retail and retail staff think about radio and digital radio? What's their level of knowledge? What's their level of understanding? And what are they actually saying to consumers when consumers come into store? Now, you might be thinking, stores are old hat and all sales have shifted online. And we certainly see those trends, but we always think that physical stores will have a key role to play because it's where people go to look at products, it's where people go to get information, even if they go home and buy online. So we do think retail is still very important. So what we did is we went into stores, we audited what staff thought, and this is what they came back to us and said. So we did a survey of audio staff in store, and what we found out, maybe not surprisingly, is they're young, they're in the mid-20s. They have the attitude that young people tend to have about radio, is that they tend to think it's more for older people. They don't really understand all these new digital stations. We have 55 digital stations in the UK. A lot of them launched in the last 2 or 3 years, and staff don't fully understand that. So there is a knowledge gap. They don't understand all aspects of digital radios like DAB+. And you know, when they're pressed, shall I buy a smart speaker or a digital radio, they would advise consumers to buy a smart speaker because they see it as an easier and perhaps a more sexy sale. So, you know, there is work to do here, and that's been the focus of the work we've done in the last 6 months and are committed to do going forward. So what we want to do is make sure that retail buyers and retail staff understand that radio is a dynamic category. There's new stations launching all the time. It's for all ages. It's not just for older people. And obviously, you know, we see over 80% of young people listening to the radio in the UK. So, and the other thing is we want to do is make sure they understand all these great new digital stations, as well as understanding DAB+ and the digital tick mark. And, you know, it's important they fully understand you can listen to radio on a smart speaker. So that's what the programme of work has been about. We've done it all under the theme of radio's digital revolution, which has been the umbrella theme both for consumer communications and for staff communications. We've had lots of videos, and I'm going to play a very quick 20-second one now.
Welcome to radio's digital revolution. From what you can hear to how you can hear it, radio is better than ever, with more stars, more shows, more music, and loads more news and sports. And with so many great digital stations, there is something for everyone. If you love radio, go digital.
Okay, and then obviously one of the key things to do is to get onto consumer websites for the retailers as well, because the retail staff look at their own websites. The biggest electrical retailer in the UK is John Lewis, and here's an extract of their consumer website. When people search radio, this is what they see, and they are able to link through to this to get lots of information about radio stations, but also about radio devices, including smart radios. We heard that from Lindsay earlier, and smart speakers as well, and I think that's been really important. And linked to this, we've had a whole consumer retail campaign targeting consumers who are going onto retail links under the theme of radio's digital revolution, and highlighting the breadth of stations and the different genres of music. And just recently, we had in the UK our first ever DAB+ campaign, because most of our listening is still DAB. And we've been telling consumers that DAB+ means many, many more stations, and focusing and trying to explain that to both consumers and staff. And at the heart of our retail training has been this digital radio e-learning site. And the point here is to bring staff to a site where they can get all the information they need about presenters, about stations, about devices, and answer all the questions they need. And this sits on some of the retail staff portals, but also is a freestanding learning resource. And we've been encouraging staff to go there directly through communications via social media. So once again, it's a very resource-intensive site. We also have a quiz with great prizes to encourage people to digest and understand as much of the information as possible. I mentioned communications, so we actually are on Facebook and Instagram, and we find retail staff online, and we communicate directly to them about the e-learning site and the e-learning program. And we've had obviously thousands of people visit, and we've had thousands of people sign up for direct communications. So we're now in a position where we can actually send out e-shots to retail staff about the key developments in radio and digital radio, and that's something that we do on a regular basis. So this is a new programme, and we're still at the early stages. We've had a really good response from retailers. We've had a great response from staff as well. And as I said, we continue to believe that retail's absolutely critical for the future of radio and radio listening in the UK, and we'll continue to focus on this. And at the end of this year, what we'll do is go back out into those stores and actually ask the staff again what they understand and what they know, and hopefully we'll see an improvement, and hopefully we'll see that they're fully committed to radio and the radio sector. So,
Brilliant.
You know,
Brilliant.
whistle-top tour. So,
I know.
And I'm sorry about
well
my
done for
microphone,
getting
microphone
Oh,
details.
I'm just glad we caught you. We wanted to hear every single word you were saying. Really, really fascinating, though, to hear about the retail landscape. And it just shows I'm such a predictable consumer. Not only did I buy the Roberts radio, which you had an image of, but I bought it from the John Lewis website.
There you go. So you're archetypal, yeah. And,
exactly.
Yeah, and as I said, it's been an interesting development stage whereby digital listening is absolutely surging at the moment. But, you know, we're seeing different types of devices being sold at retail, and what we don't want to do is lose those digital radio sales at retail, which is why we've invested in this programme.
Absolutely, so important, so interesting. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Now it is time to hear how broadcasters in the Bavarian region of Germany have considered DAB's green credentials. And here to tell us all about their recently published green report is Veit Olischläger, Head of Technology, Media Management and Public Relations for BLM.
From Munich, Germany. I hope you can hear me now. Thanks for inviting me to present the Bavaria's DAB Plus Green Radio report. And first of all, what were the goals and the partners of the study? As we all know, climate change is a challenge for all of us, and we asked what broadcasters can do. So we made an examination of the potential savings of energy consumption for transmission, FM versus DAB+, and reception. Beside Bayerischer Rundfunk und Bayerische Landeszentrale für neue Medien, our partners were JVC Kenwood and Technisat as device manufacturer and Media Broadcast as a network operator. Thanks for your support to this study. What was the study design and how's the situation in Germany right now? As you can see on the bottom right, southeast in Germany, the DAB radio landscape is most developed here. That was the reason why we selected the federal state of Bavaria as the main study regions. Other regions were also monitored. The focus was the power consumption of the service transmission. We measured and estimated the input power of the transmitters. Please keep in mind that FM allows only one radio service per frequency, as we heard earlier this morning. DAB Plus allows up to 16 services per multiplex, so all the following considerations are made for one service only. I need to relock my cell phone. The focus of the study was the energy consumption of two networks in Bavaria, which we compared. On one hand, we have the network of the Bayerische Rundfunk, the public broadcaster with several different services. And on the other hand, we have the network of Antenne Bayern, the statewide private broadcaster in Bavaria. What is the coverage? The coverage for the Bayerische Rundfunk compared FM to DAB Plus in 2028 is almost equivalent, around about 13 million inhabitants. Even the coverage of Antenne Bayern is pretty much comparable. It's in both ways a little less than 13 million inhabitants. What is the energy we use? On FM, the given power consumption for the Bayerische Rundfunk is around 1,000 megawatt hours per year. And on the DAB side, it's 261 megawatt hours, which results a reduction of 75%. Let's take a look at the private network. Here, the energy consumption in FM is higher, about 40%, due to different transmitter sites, antennas, and so on. The energy consumption on the DAB side is slightly reduced to a slightly reduced data rate. And all overall, the reduction is 85% for the private network. Let's take a look at the receiver side. Modern radio requires about 40% less energy in typical operation mode than a comparable older FM module. In addition, it comes with many more features such as display, etc., as you all know. Regardless of DAB+, what we all want to promote, the greatest energy saving effects would be achieved just by replacing older FM radio sets. To wrap up my presentation, here are the conclusions of the study itself. Broadcasting via DAB+ saves up to 90% of energy. In the study, we monitored other regions. Please find all the details in this study, in the original study. Radio's energy balance is the worst when all services are broadcasted simultaneously via FM and DAB+. Receiver's power consumption has dropped by around 40%, while additional functions were added, and considerable energy savings would be possible on the reception side by replacing the approximately 122 million FM radio sets existing just in Germany. So far, for a quick insight, the complete study is available in German on br.de or blm.de, and the English version is available on the WorldDAB website. Thanks for your attention.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation, Veit. Absolutely brilliant. And what a positive step the Green Report has been having. So thank you, Veit, again for sharing that with us. Now, that Green Report is available in English on the WorldDAB website. So do look it up if it's of interest to you. And Bavaria, of course, is really focusing on what is a hot topic right now for the wider public. So now it's into our final speaker during this session, and that's Max Templeman. Now, Max is the Insight Director of Consumer Electronics at GfK, and he's here to tell us about the latest trends in consumer audio devices and, of course, particularly DAB radio receiver trends. Max, over to you.
Welcome. Hope you're healthy and well. Without further ado, let me take you through some digital radio trends. If you're unfamiliar with GfK, we track consumer spending across about 300 different product groups and produce market reports based off retailers' EPOS systems. My name is Max, and I'll be taking you through some trends in digital radios across Europe. Let's just set the scene first. And I have here a chart not only comparing 2021 to 2020, but also to 2019, as many of our clients are keen to see the change versus a non-COVID year, and I expect you are too. The good news here is that at a global level, all the areas we track saw growth versus 2020, which is the solid colour, and the same is true for 2019, but with the more cautious growth for consumer electronics in the middle in yellow. All the other areas are seeing double-digit growth, and TCG, so all the areas combined on the left, sees a healthy 14% growth versus the 6 months of last year. IT and Office, which already saw a 24% growth year on year, has risen the most over the longer period, as consumers have built home offices over the last 18 months and have needed to make those additional purchases for a more comfortable setup at home. Now, to focus more on audio, and specifically digital radios, so this includes categories such as audio home systems, portable radio, clock radio, boombox, tuners, receivers, and car audio. Again, we can look at a 3-year picture. Worthwhile because 2019 and 2020 MATs were level in volume, but positive news here as we now see a 650,000 unit growth across the region, leading to a market value of 561 million euros and a €4 increase in average price. Let's look at how each of the countries has been performing. Again, we're looking at EU12 for the period July 19 to June 20 and July 20 to June 21. For last year, Germany saw over a third of all the volume sales in the region, with GB following with just over a quarter. The rest of EU12 tussle for position, with Switzerland falling in third place. This year sees roughly the same pattern, but with a few noticeable changes. Firstly, GB sees a 7% drop in share, partly, I feel, linked to the vigorous lockdowns we saw this year in GB, with many consumers' cash being spent elsewhere, but also because of the date for digital switchover, which has recently been revealed to be potentially no earlier than 2030. On the other hand, we see France grow to 8% of EU12 volume, as well as Belgium and Italy also gaining share, capturing an extra 1% each versus last year. Let's briefly have a look at the growth rates of the 12 countries. Whilst a stall market at the moment, Czech Republic sees over 100% growth, with the more mature markets of France and Italy closely behind with around 80% growth. France having recently seen around 2,000 kilometres of major roads added to DAB coverage. At the other end of the scale, we can see how GB's drop in share is translated into real sales, and unfortunately that results in an 11% volume decline. Now, over the last year and a half, online sales have boomed in virtually all countries as retailers closed their doors and rather quickly adapted their e-commerce platforms to suddenly handle a previously unheard of level of sales. While supermarkets on the whole remained open, many other stores were not. Just as a benchmark, for all of Europe, not just EU12, but for the first half of 2019, 27% of all market value was online. Move forwards 2 years, and this is now 44%. And whilst these figures are in value and of course influenced by recent events, they act as a good indicator for other categories such as digital radios. These have seen a similar upward trend, even peaking at 56% during Q4 last year. We expect these figures to slowly come down, but not to pre-COVID levels. As a headline figure, over 2 million DAB devices were sold online this year. At GfK, we not only track the products themselves, but also the product features. And two that are being talked about a lot at the moment, in addition to being DAB, are smart and Bluetooth. However, smart has various definitions. So in this instance, I'm looking at models with an operating AI on board. These models only occupy 1% of market volume, but are seeing triple-digit growth. Couple this with an average price twice that of the other 99%, and we can see some space for this segment to grow quite considerably over the next few years. Similarly, models with Bluetooth see a more modest 37% growth, holding over half the market share, this time being around 3 times the price of standard non-Bluetooth models. Just to look at consumer choice now, and this is where we look at the number of different selling models in the market, and can act as a proxy for if a consumer had the choice of all stores' ranges in a category. Again, we have Bluetooth and AI enabled, but I've also added in digital radios with smart app control. We can see Bluetooth way out in front with over 1,300 different models. And whilst AI enabled is still very limited, DAB radios with smart app control are far more diverse, offering 270 different models. Note, we see no rapid increase in range over the last 3 quarters, possibly indicating that investment and R&D into these segments is now plateaued. Remember that our panel of data does not include every single store across Europe, so there will be some slight differences country to country. If we move on to the prices consumers are paying now and group these into different bands, we see that budget models up to €25 in bright blue see little change over the last 2 years. 25 to €50 in dark green does see quite a big negative impact in Q4, which is of course the traditional gifting season where consumers trade up to more expensive models. In fact, we see a fairly uniform increase in sales for all bands above €25, with the super premium end of the market, the €200 band in blue, seeing around 250,000 sales in Q4 last year, dropping to 110,000 in the most recent quarter. This I see as good news for the industry, as consumers are not migrating down the price ladder over time, and the long-term increase in volume is also supporting the value market. One category we mentioned last year was smart displays. These are multi-room audio products that have a screen but no tuner. These products are relatively new and have now had 2 enormous seasonal peaks over Q4, plus the initial sales boost during lockdown 1, almost entirely emanating from GB sales. France, in red, has also proved to be a reliable market for these devices, followed in a slightly different cycle by Germany in purple. Whilst on a much smaller scale than DAB radio, we saw around 250,000 sales in December last year. However, as with standard smart audio devices, there is a ceiling to sales numbers, as sooner or later we'll hit market penetration and only replacement purchases will take place on a much longer life cycle. To finish today, I have a little data from our consumer studies, just looking at who is the smart speaker consumer. So I'll take you through what we've discovered. Around half of consumers purchasing this device are new to the category, but there is also a high percentage of brand loyalty, as once you make your first purchase, you have invested and got used to a particular ecosystem. On the right, we can look at what drives the final purchase of a smart speaker. Price is the number one factor overall, but product features and brand are also at the top of the list. Let me take you through some takeouts from today's presentation. Total 2021 spending was up versus 2020, but consumer electronics, which is where most of digital radios sit, only show a small value increase. Average price of digital radios rises by around €4, bringing the market value to 561 million euros in the last year. Germany, France, Italy and Belgium increased share of total Europe DAB sales, but the Czech Republic sees the highest growth rate. Over half of all DAB sales occurred online in Q1 this year. Retailers must ensure they are ready for long-term increased demand. Consumers have an enormous choice of DAB products now, but the Bluetooth-enabled range offers over 1,000 different models. DAB radios, over €200, still provide a healthy market share and gain importance in Q4. Well, that's it from me. I hope you found this session interesting, and sorry to not be there in person. If you have any queries on the slides or are interested in finding out more about the research we do at GfK, please feel free to get in touch after the other speakers have finished. Thank you.
We will indeed get in touch, Max. Thank you very much. Some brilliant insight, as always, from Max into the key trends for audio devices. Thank you very much. Now, talking of DAB radios, and of course, you might have heard the news already when WorldDAB published their latest infographic last week. That's over 100 million DAB digital radio sets have been sold worldwide. Wow, huge congratulations to WorldDAB on reaching that milestone. What an achievement. We need to get the champagne out for, don't we?
No, that's incredible. 100 million. I mean, I think that's both car and radios in home, but it's still a huge milestone. So congratulations to everyone who's been involved in that. Yeah, really, really is a huge milestone there. And a fantastic session there from Max as well. Ford, what would be your key takeaways, I suppose, from this session? Well, from the overall session, I mean, I think it's been excellent. We've seen some really excellent presentations as well. What I'd see is that digital radio and DAB plus digital radio sales are growing strongly across Europe, and that's fantastic. It's great to see the support for DAB plus across Europe. The other thing is the green story, the environmental story is very, very powerful, and it's one we haven't really talked about before. So I was really fascinated by that. And then I just say, from a UK perspective, where we have booming audio sales but not booming digital radio sales, it's very much about smart speakers and about listening to radio on smart speakers. And we need to continue to make sure we reinforce that message. Yeah, and so topical at the moment, isn't it? Now we're actually going to move on. We have got some questions from you guys at home. So thank you very much for sending those in. Let's kick off with a question for Jackie. Jackie, question for you. Have you seen an increase in the need for more marketing of digital radio in recent times? Now, Jackie, I think you might be muted, or I may have gone deaf. But I can't. There you are. Lovely.
Yes, we have increased marketing. And as a matter of fact, we did, for example, in the Netherlands last year, but also in Belgium and also in Germany. It is increasing, and especially on collaboration with our partners. So it's not only radio ads telling what DAB Plus is, but it's finding ways, being creative, having brainstorm sessions with our co-workers on how we can make sure that the entire market is working on it. And so the entire chain is involved in getting consumers start using DAB Plus radios.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you very much, Jackie. The next question actually is to you, Ford, probably slightly relating more to the earlier session, session 1. And this is from Lars Peder in Sweden. Hello to everyone in Sweden. And Lars would like to know, why is there a fear of turning off FM in the UK? Because the majority, of course, are already listening to DAB. And aren't the environmental aspects already a main argument?
Well, it's a really good question, so thank you for that. I actually wanted to do a shout out for Ian O'Neill, who spoke earlier. He was the chair of this review, that the radio and audio review that's gone on for the last couple of years. And it was a really impressive piece of work, and I think he and the whole team and Lindsay and others did a great job on it. And what that did do is look at whether there should be an analogue switch off, whether FM should be switched off. I think what it decided was that certainly not for the next 10 years, because actually what the broadcasters don't want to lose that FM listening. And the upsides of switching off aren't as important as holding on to that listening. So we do expect, as you heard earlier, for digital listening to continue to grow. DAB is very important, IP is very important. But FM still has 34% of listeners. So we want to make sure that we do maximise, the listening from those guys. And I guess probably there'll be a review in the next 5 years and we'll take another look at it. But right now, we do believe that FM should be sustained. Yeah,
well, to have a third of the audience, that's definitely not...
Absolutely,
That's a significant chunk that you don't want to lose out on, for sure. Thank you, Ford. Right, question for you. And someone from the audience at home would like to know, the green issues that you've talked about obviously have been massively in the news recently with COP26. Do you think radio is actually doing enough for the environment?
Definitively not, because as I mentioned, the simulcast distribution is the worst thing we can do. So we need to discuss, we need to bring forward the switch off discussion. We started this in Germany already. We had some stations turned off, but this is not enough by the end of the day.
So more work to be done there. Right, thank you very much. And just finally, a question back to you, Ford. What has surprised you the most when you've been doing your programme of training retailers about DAB?
I think once again, a good question. We were surprised at how little people actually knew, and maybe we assumed that the retailers were actually doing more training, giving more knowledge than we thought they actually were. So the fact that people didn't know those range of 50 national digital stations, couldn't name those stations, and probably couldn't name more than 10. So it's a lack of understanding and knowledge, and I think that's something that we can change.
Absolutely. So you're there really to empower them and give them the knowledge.
Absolutely right, yeah.
Well, Ford, thank you very much. And thank you to all of our speakers so far today. Now, if you have missed anything, do not worry, because the World DAB project team is going to be sending out an event summary and also links to all of the presentations that you have watched so far this morning, or perhaps it's the evening, wherever you are in the world. Plus, of course, you'll be able to watch the whole thing again once on Catch Up. Now, it's time for a bit of a lunch break. Lunch break at 5 to 11. How wonderful. We might even get to enjoy a bit of blue sky and sun for a moment. But do be sure to come back and join us here for session 3, because we'll be hearing all about the findings of the important study that Edison Research have done. Now, they surveyed radio listeners across 6 major auto markets to get a really good understanding, a much deeper understanding about what they really think about radio when buying a new car, which I've got to say I'm particularly excited about. And that is going to be exclusive, and those findings will be announced for the very first time to you guys here today. So do join us. Thank you very much. And we will see you after a short lunch break.